Hey,
Hi, how are
What's going
y'all?
hey,
on?
what's up?
Good, good, man. I was surprised. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, hi, good morning.
All right. Can you just introduce yourself for the people?
Sure, absolutely. My name is Kira Brown. I go by Room Full of Blerds here on Instagram. I am also one part of Blerd's Eye View. Um, yeah, that's
Yeah, shout
Uh,
out to Blerds Eye View. We love y'all. We
Thank
love y'all.
you. It's mutual, man, always.
I wanted to give you a chance to ask your question to Carl. Do you remember
Yeah,
what you
sure. So,
do you remember?
oh,
Oh, okay.
it's in here. Um, my question was, as a forced extrovert, how do you maintain your networking relationships with people once you get into this area of I don't even know what to call it, the networking or trying to get your ideas put out there,
Wow,
or just being
that's
a mechanism to be, being a port for people to get to other people.
yeah. That's a really good question because I definitely am a huge introvert, and I used to be like really shy, really you know like I didn't I would, it's crazy just seeing, because even like to this day, like to pitch stuff, anytime I'm pitching a show or a film, I go through so much anxiety, right? But nobody on camera can see it because I always ask people if they can tell. Nobody can tell, but I go through so much anxiety, and to this day, like it's something I still struggle with, to be honest. But my partner and wife, Love, she's a little bit more of like I guess a social butterfly, right? So a lot of times she'll kind of push me out of my comfort zone. So it's good to have someone that I think that can recognize that you have those kind of anxieties, or those or a little bit of that kind of introverted fear to do the kind of networking that you need in order to make the relationships. Having somebody that is the opposite of that, right? That can actually kind of just kind of nudge you a little bit out of it, because it is a big part of I think succeeding in this industry. Not so much just because like it's a relationship that you can utilize, right? Meaning like to get from point A to point B, someone to connect. It's not so much as that, but I just mean like there's so many people with so much knowledge, information, experiences, resources, and especially with our people, like we need each other. We definitely need each other. Like it's hard enough for anybody to make it into the industry. When it comes to us, it's even 10 times harder, right? So like we do need to rely on each other and to know each other and to really build those, I'm talking about genuine relationships with each other, so that we can help each other in a real way. And that doesn't necessarily mean plugs and connects. That could just mean information. That could just mean you hipping me to what's going on at this particular network or this studio, or the experiences that you had. And look, I'll say this. I one of the things that I do sometimes, like when I'm struggling with that anxiety, is because I've been dealing with anxiety all my life, and I've just now gotten to this point. I'm sure a lot of us have, right? So, but I used to have like really bad like anxiety attacks, and it would just kind of cripple me, and not literally, but I'm saying, but I won't walk into a room, or when I know it's a group of people somewhere, important people. I've missed jobs. I've missed like big jobs, showrunner jobs, because I didn't show up to the meetings. You know what I'm saying? Because you know what I mean. So but one thing that I started to realize is that, especially for a creative, because we're imaginative, right? When you mix the imagination with the fear of what could potentially go wrong, it's it's a mess, right?
It's
And
crippling. It
it's,
can be crippling.
it is. But if you can push through that a few times, right, and see that things never play out the way that you might think they will, right? The worst case scenarios don't usually play out, and always go back, revert back to that thought, to what you were thinking before you went there and how it actually turned out. Like when I saw, I had to remind myself, like, yeah, I was feeling this way one time before, but then when I got there, none of that happened. You know what I'm saying? And I just keep constantly like reinforcing that until I start to be more self-aware of the anxiety taking control, you know, so that way you can get it before it spirals too much. But the other thing I stopped doing, honestly, was, you know, because some of the fear would come from, like, you know, like, not only what could go wrong, but also like how I'm being perceived, right? Or like what people are thinking about what I'm saying, and what people are thinking about what I'm pitching, what people are thinking about me as a person. And I stopped being so, and that's, it's probably easier said than done, but I stopped being so concerned about what people think, right? And just really tuning into what I fucking like about it. Like if I love an idea and I'm really passionate about it, I gotta kind of say, like, fuck what people think. If I really believe in it, right? So like, even if they don't like it, it doesn't mean it's bad. Whereas before, I used to feel like if I pitched a show and the network hated it, I was like, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to be in this business. I'm like, I used to think I am not fit to be here. Like I used to, so I think a lot of us suffer from some imposter syndrome, right? Because to this day I still feel like I snuck in the back door of the club. That's kind of like I don't. There's many days where I'm questioning whether or not I have the ability to stay in this business, you know, to this day, you know, so that plays a part in how, you know, your whole overall confidence, but also, like, you know, you gotta, in this business, it's all about pitching, right? So you're gonna be in rooms where, even if it's a Zoom and you got 20 white people looking at you like, go, you know what I'm saying? And they turn off their cameras, and I mean, turn off their audio. So even if you're pitching jokes, you're not gonna hear them laugh. So all you're doing is you're pitching to these pictures of people, you know what I'm saying? And it's a really hard thing to do for introverted people. So I guess the only other thing I'll say is, the more you do it, I think the easier it gets to some degree, but it's because it's more psychological. You just have to constantly override those thoughts. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's just but
You got to like trade out big voices, like the big voice in your head. You got to trade out for what the reality of the voice in the room. If I think that makes sense.
Right, but also the other thing I didn't do in the beginning was remembering that these are people too that I'm talking to. We're all people, and they all have fears and anxieties too, and they all have insecurities too. You know what I'm saying? So I think the more you can remind yourself that you're still talking to people, because one of the things that started helping me with pitching, and it's weird because because I'm so afraid, I get so nervous to pitch, but I actually have I do really good, you know what I'm saying, despite it somehow. But one of the things I started doing was, and I learned this, I used to sell cars, like a long time ago, I sold cars. And one of the things that my manager had told me was, he was like, don't ever talk about the car, right? He's like, because I was thinking, well, we're selling cars, so I just need to talk about cars. He's like, no, you're not selling cars, you're selling people, right? He said people want to connect with people, you know, and he said, so stop thinking about the cars at first, right? He said, just think about the person and try to connect with the people on a human level. So a lot of times what I'll do now is, like, when I go into a pitch meeting or any kind of meeting, I try to set aside all of the things that we're really there to talk about, and just actually learn a little bit about the people we're talking to, and actually make a real connection with them, you know. And it could be telling a joke, or it could just be talking about something personal that's going on with you. And the other thing I noticed is, if you expose if you're strong enough to be vulnerable enough to expose some insecurity or something about yourself that's flawed, right? It usually puts everyone else at ease. You know what I'm saying? Because it creates a certain kind of intimacy with the people you're talking to, where they feel that you're comfortable enough with them to talk about something like that, right? And then it just opens up a little bit more. It's like, it creates a certain kind of energy. So these are just like little things that I've over the years, I just started to gather, and I started to make a part of my repertoire. So like now, I don't just jump right, because I've seen people pitch where they just jump right into the pitch, and it's cold. The room is cold. People aren't receptive, and it's not that the idea is bad. They just haven't been able to connect with you yet. You know what I'm saying? So I know this is probably going outside of your question, but all of it
No,
kind of, you
no,
know,
it fits because if you make that connection with those people by being vulnerable, then that's an easier way for you to continue that relationship going forward. You've made that connection.
yes,
So
absolutely.
it makes sense to me.